Corbin, welcome back to the City Stage and Friends podcast. Thank you so much for being here. We had a misfortune of our first podcast together due to, obviously,
really Victor not liking the content is what I heard.
I think hard drives, sometimes disappear. Footage just happens to disappear sometimes. But we're here and we're grateful you're back. So
I think this is a great way to start off this episode. Have you ever lost anything important in the digital world?
All the career. And then when you lose something important and you're sifting through a hard drive from 2013, you find stuff that is not important.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need that. But
why is this taking up space?
Yeah, it happens.
Well, we had the unfortunate event. We lost your podcast.
It was probably the greatest podcast of all time.
I think it would have given us 1 million plus views.
And here we are still like spending money keeping this thing going.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
But no, in all seriousness, I had never lost footage up until that happened. I was like, oh my gosh. So
do you feel honored in a way?
I remember the first time or the first day of my first job as well. When you make big mistakes.
It happens.
Like that.
It happens.
Just when you're just fresh to the industry, you haven't done anything of value, really.
I remember my first day. That's but no, we were talking on the phone last week, and I wanted to start off with this.
Sure.
Was it an apology?
It was an apology, yes, but then it happened to flourish into a wonderful conversation that lasted for about 20 minutes, if you need to know.
I was leading into that,
but you had said something that you were just kind of pondering on, and that was the tolerance of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Can you delve into that?
Yeah.
In our
deep
line of work.
Yeah, it was deep. I'm trying to think of what we were talking about. We were talking about just the industry as a whole.
Yeah, correct.
And I kind of stumbled upon this idea from a podcast I was listening to, and the guest was Van Neistat, and they were talking about how, you've been doing this a long time. What does it require to have a long career in the creative business? And he said, you got to have a tolerance for uncertainty. And I was like doing something else, and I was like, oh shit, that is
take that piece of nugget.
That is it. And so basically the idea is like, in order to do what we do, there's just a high tolerance for uncertainty is necessary. And I do have quite a few young people starting out, and they ask that same question, and including my son. And I just always say, you got to have a tolerance for uncertainty. You got to have a tolerance for your bank account being at zero. You got to have a tolerance for seeing a shitty room and turning it into something. You got to see, you walk in and the client is like, yeah, we can do these interviews, but it's going to be in this crappy conference room. And you're like, yes. Or you get to a location and they're like, oh, you can't shoot in here. Or you're shooting in an open restaurant. There's all this uncertainty that comes with doing anything creative. There's, you're sort of living in a state of uncertainty. And that's why I love that statement of you got to have a tolerance for uncertainty. Otherwise, it's going to be tough. Because I live in that uncertainty. Sure, and I like that uncertainty. That's where it's like, and not only do you have to have a tolerance for it, but you sort of have to be kind of like it. I like figuring things out. I like problem solving, and my wife will tell you that I sometimes create problems to solve when there's not problems to be solved. And so I think that idea of the tolerance of uncertainty is absolutely necessary,
Okay. Yeah.
And there's a little, I would say, as the old guy in the room, like there's a little more certainty in what we do now. But, I started in the late 90s when it was like nobody had Firewire, let alone.
Sure, yeah.
Especially in this area, it was like there weren't a lot of people that did what I do now for a living, and so there was a lot of uncertainty. But I just liked it, so I just kept banging my head against the wall, and still am.
So how old is your son? And is he like? Sorry,
no, go ahead.
Jump in there. Is he like interested in?
Yeah, he's
this
21.
World that
he's going to school
into?
For what is it? He's going to hate me that I don't remember, but it's like digital something or other. He's going to school for that in Milwaukee. So it's like graphic design, web design in that space. I try to talk him out of it, but he loves it. And he actually he like has it.
Has an aptitude for it.
Yeah. He's got an eye for it, and he has taste and like obsession. Like I've been watching it the last few years, and you know, I've managed teams of creatives. You know, one place I was at, I had 12 people working for me, and I had to interview a lot of people, and you kind of can quickly, okay, that person's got it, or they just suck, you know? And, and he's got it. Like and what he has is that taste, and the skills, you can YouTube it now, but the taste.
That's what you said that stood out to me too. And I certainly think that's a real thing to have taste and understand what is. There's so much subjectivity in the realm of what we do, but there are certain things that are objective.
Yeah.
And being able to know the difference between the two is a big deal. And that's something that...
And unteachable.
Mm-hmm. Or very difficult to learn.
It can be learned.
To develop good taste.
Like if somebody was like, I really want to get into this, it's like, well, go get the book Steal Like an Artist from Austin Kleon and just look at the stuff you love and figure out why they made those decisions. And you can, by osmosis and experience, you can learn taste. But man, if you can't see that it's not centered,
sure,
without using a ruler, you're going to have a tough time.
Yeah.
And I think, again, and then I would add to that, you got to have that tolerance for uncertainty, because what we do, or at least what I do for a living, is really uncertain at times. You know.
Yeah. So you talk about the uncertainty, but what is it that, since you've been doing this since the 90s, what is it that kind of motivates you and keep you going?
My mortgage?
No, but I mean, I think you're a smart guy. You could go out.
Oh, I'm not joking.
No, but I mean,
family that continues to eat every week.
You could go out, get a job, work internally for a company, or you could, just do other things than this. What is it a part of this industry that kind of has kept you going and wanting to flourish?
Yeah, great question. I've tried all those things, and when I've jumped in and worked at an agency, I'm just, number one, I'm a terrible employee, and number two, like I can't stand it. Like the last agency I worked at, it was like I'd get my work done by 1 o'clock, for the day. And then I just would leave.
Just like twirling a pen till 4:30.
No, I just started leaving, and the owner was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm done." Like, and he's like, "Oh no, we need you to just like be here for work culture." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Everybody's got headphones on, and like I'm done." Like, number one, why am I coming to your desk? I could do this like on my couch. Like, there's no reason to be here. And that personality didn't go mesh well with an owner of an agency, and so I've tried that, and so over the years I was on my own for so long, and I worked at different places and just always struggled with being an employee, and so it's sort of been a process of elimination. Just like, this is just I kind of have to be on my own, at least for now. But the other thing is just I don't know what else to do. Like, I probably would be awesome at sales, because I sell stuff to people that they don't want all the time, like my whole career. So it's like, sometimes I talk to sales guys that sell stuff that people need or want, and I'm like kind of jealous.
What a lucky guy you are.
It's like I'm on the phone trying to convince somebody to pay us to do a social media video, and like, they don't need that. They don't need to spend that money. And but yet somehow it's our job to convince them that they do, But then overall, it's like I'm really passionate about it, and I'm really obsessed about it, and I'm thinking about it all the time. And I think that's yet another requirement to do this, is like, if you don't have to be passionate about it, because I think that's kind of bullshit. But you at least have to be obsessed, where you're like, man, I wonder how they did that, or I wonder what the pitch looked like to pitch that commercial that is so dumb and I don't get it, but they got paid a lot of money. Right? It's like,
I spent $350,000 on it.
I really don't care about sports, but I like watching the commercials, because I'm like, man, who pitched that idea? Like, that is, and those are the things that, as I've gotten older, I've got obsessed with, and I've looked at business as an art, and I've looked at pitching as an art and sales as an art, and try to crack that code or solve that problem. And sometimes it drives me mad, but at the same time, those are the things that I've learned to love, you know, because I think with design or video production, at some point you kind of get bored, and you've kind of like, you could solve just about anything, and you're kind of like, I don't really want to go shoot this documentary for this corporate entity that's an evil corporation, but got to pay my bills. And and so you end up sort of being a tradesman. But I've found over the years that there's certain things that I still want to master as a craftsman. And I think there's a difference. And I think they often, you kind of have to be a craftsman in order to be a tradesman, but sometimes you're just getting the job done. You're getting in, you're getting out.
It's interesting how you said, basically, you were looking at these things that some people might think of more as sciences, like business or or sales or whatever, but you're looking at it like as an art. You're like, versus, you know, some people trying to maybe reverse engineer being an artist from a scientific standpoint. Like, what are the points I need to hit to make this work artistically? You're thinking more, how do I hit the sciencey points for this to work artistically? You know, it's like you're clearly an artist, creative first.
Yeah, and I've just learned that it is an art
process.
Like really good, you know, really successful business people are artists. You know, they trust their gut, they have taste in the same way that you guys understand color or composition when you're shooting something. Business people see a spreadsheet like that and they go, oh, that makes sense. And they trust their gut, and then they figure out how to translate that gut feeling into a spreadsheet. And I used to hate spreadsheets so much. And then my little brother, who's like a computer genius, computer programmer, and he's like, you got to look at it like a video game, and you got to figure out how to hack it. And he's like, you're super anti-establishment, so look at it as like damning the man. And I was like, that's a really good advice. And so then I was like, all right. And this is early on where I was like figuring out quoting, you know, how do I automate this a little bit, and figured it out, you know?
Yeah. So when you had said that quote to me last week, to me, I thought about the fact that what's the reverse? What keeps me going? And to me, it's always this I think the unknown things that might be coming up. I'm sure there's a more fancy way to say that, but the unknown, that's, you know, a project that's going to come in, the ability that project might be small, but it might be huge. It might be the biggest thing in your career.
I call that the mistress of opportunity.
Yes.
She's an evil bitch.
That to me, but I think, you know, there's been some really low points in, you know, especially lifting the business off the ground, not knowing anyone, trying to connect to people. But that's always one thing that I've always thought, something might be around the corner, the unexpected. You know, that's always fascinated me, just to, and it still
this
excites
idea
me.
that like a project could be the connection to something, or that after this project, you don't know what might come next.
One day you're in absolute famine, and you don't know where the money's going to come. You know, you got expenses that need to be paid out for that month, and you go, oh, what in the world? How am I going to do this? And then that possibility that something might come up, then you're going to be good for 6 months. You know what I mean? That's always been, or 4 months, or a week, or a week, exactly. But that's always been, I think that's what the driving force. Because I love that we just had someone in here yesterday. We were pitching a video, and it's always exciting starting a new project to me. I love that beginning stages of dreaming of what it could be, seeing how we can help, and then going further, obviously. And then the production is great as well. But that's always my thing, that I always like the new things on the horizon that you just might not know are coming up. So that to me has always been the driving force of like, you just don't know. So is there anything, I know you said that, is there anything more specific that you kind of think this has kind of been the driving force behind me to keep doing this for so long, even in the tough times?
Yeah, I think as you're saying that, I think at the end of the day, whether I'm selling a ladder or
Yeah.
I'm selling tables. I genuinely want to help people, and
Yeah.
and I just happen to have a skill set that can help people. And I think that is definitely part of me that I do love about what I do is I'm actually helping this marketing director not get fired. And number
Which
two,
is the thing they're concerned about more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And then number two, I'm helping this company grow if we do our job, whether it's marketing strategy, whether it's content creation, or simply doing a banner ad for them. It's I genuinely wouldn't, I don't think I would do what I do if I didn't want to help people. And that's not just bullshit. I wouldn't do it as long as I have done it, because I do want to help people and I want to help them make their thing better. And I really want to do it in an honest, as best as I can. I mean, I still, who's not a liar, but it's I want to do it in the most honest way that I can, in a most economically efficient way that is possible, because there isn't a client out there that's here's unlimited money and unlimited creative freedom.
Yeah.
We all would hate that. We need constraints, and we need sort of we only got $5,000, but we could make this look like $20,000, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
And I love that. I love that. We just wrapped up a lot of our 2025 planning, a few months ago for clients, and to hear feedback that's that they were satisfied and that it helped move the needle, and it helped with this, or it brought this much traffic to their sign up or whatever.
Yeah.
It is gratifying to me. Now, I think that can get unhealthy, because if you're doing it for people, to get people to like you, ooh, good luck. Because you're also going to have people that don't like you,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Statistically speaking here.
Yeah. Or don't care,
Right.
as much as you do,
So
Yeah.
you're talking, so you almost, what you were just talking about was almost like a year-end review maybe you're doing with some clients and planning for the next year.
So
is that a thing you do every year for
some clients that are, I have a few clients that we're doing their whole entire year worth of marketing strategy and content creation. So October, November, we're trying to meet with them, and we open the meeting with what worked and what didn't work, and down to I'll let them be really honest. What worked with working with Frank and Harvey? Was communication good? Did you feel like you were heard? I give them the opportunity to be I would love it if you would respond to my emails at midnight or whatever.
Yeah.
I would say sorry. It's not going to happen. But
I'd love it if you'd stay at your desk after 1:00.
Well, yeah.
and this is Frank and Harvey, your agency. I'm seeing on your hat right here.
Oh,
now.
yeah. I got some merch. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to give the client an opportunity to give me feedback. And I'm listen, we're in this together. It's about communication. I want to see you succeed. What could we have done better and what worked? And often the conversation goes more towards what worked and what went well. And then we'll kind of go through, here's what we're thinking. Here's some ideas for 2025. What do you think? And they'll say, I don't like this or I like that. And then it's okay, what are your goals? Sales goals, marketing goals. Some clients might be we've got 12 events that are coming up and we need a plan around that. But we're trying to listen. And I learned that working at agencies. Most bigger agencies will do that year-end planning for the next year. And it's great, because then you're okay, contract signed, let's go,
Yeah.
Now, some of the smaller clients,
Sure,
they don't do that. They're, it's a project here, project there.
So having that insight into that, I feel like you've had a lot of touch points in that, the interworkings between businesses and marketing agencies and bypassing the agency and being your own agency. Mm-hmm. So why is it that January, at least in our part of the country, January, February, maybe mid-March tend to be dead here? Is that a business cycle thing in your mind?
Budget renewals?
Because you're talking about you're going into it tail end of the year with the strategy. Is it that they haven't developed what they're actually going to release yet, or it's
so first
why
of
do you
all,
think that is?
I will
when it comes
say
to production
that last week I put a calendar reminder for next year this time, and it just says, "Don't freak out. This happens every year." I'm not joking, because I was having one of those existential crises that I'm sure.
Don't sell the house.
Yeah, I'm sure every business owner has, where, cash is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Sales are in process. You've got a few, but you're like going, how are we going to do this? And so I think one of two things happens. I think it's like, I would say I can speak to two different types of clients. I would say locally, it's lack of planning. It's just like, it's a bit of a shit show where I got a call on Tuesday. It was like, "Hey, could you come do this shoot for me tomorrow?" And I'm like, okay, and it's
let me check my schedule.
Yeah.
Nothing.
And so I think there's lack of planning, and that's why I tried really hard to like get ahead of that and start planning in the fall so that we can hit go in January. So next week I'm heading to California for a shoot, and we're shooting all of 2025, all their videos in a week.
Wow.
And that's great. You know, and so over the years I've tried to, even if people come to us at the end of the year, I'll be like, "How about we push this to January? Hey, how about what about February?" Because there's been times where, I will say last year, the bank account got down to next to nothing, waiting for a client to sign a contract. And it was March or April, and I was counting the days. I was like, "Oh shit, come on, let's go." And so if we can encourage clients, it doesn't always happen, but at least we're pushing them a little bit towards like, okay, we're going to start here. We're going to start here. To your point, I've even started saying to clients that do yearly contracts, "Hey, could we start it in go March to March?" Because it is weird. I don't know what it is. Budgets end up getting approved in March, but then you're already 3 months into the year, and you've got to do a year's worth of content. And so I'm like, why don't we just make the budget March to March, so that then January, February, there's cash coming in.
There's at least still paying on it. So you must break it out into like a retainer style.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So we try to get everybody towards some sort of either committing to X amount of projects or month to month type thing where we know exactly what we're going to be accomplishing.
Yeah. Can you give a overview of the things that your agency does and just kind of like your background as well on top of that?
Yeah. So I would say reluctantly, I'm an ad agency.
And why do you say that?
I just hate ad agencies so much. I just do. I've worked for them. I don't like.
So all you ad agency people out there that want,
I don't know to their face. They would agree with me.
Let me tell you why you suck.
What don't you like about it?
It's just a slimy business. Some of it is. Especially some of the shenanigans that go on with ad buys and SEO. It just is. Ugh, I just don't like it. And So I worked at a lot of different agencies. I mean, way back in the day, I used to work for churches, and that's even ickier. But working in ad agencies, I would often come on either as a creative director or as a video production, because I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. My background is design, and then I stumbled into video. But our agency specifically, I'm not joking, we're reluctantly an ad agency because we've done quite well in the content creation space. And I would sit in the room, and my clients would start saying how pissed off they were at their agency. And it was the same thing over and over and over. It was like, they ripped us off, or they promised us the moon, they never did this, they don't listen, or they sold us on this one idea, and then they pushed us off to a junior account executive. And I was like watching all this money being left on the table, and I was like seeing the budgets going, man,
it would be nice if that were my budget.
Yeah, some of it, and so I just was like, you know what, I think we need to think about this. And then I had a client that basically they came to me before I was like, okay, we're going to do marketing strategy, content strategy, email marketing, some of the more digital products that agencies offer. I really dragged my feet for a long time, but then I had a client that was like, we are pissed at our agency. And the story was that they were at a trade show and they had spent a shit ton of money on their trade show booth. And, it's like multi-story.
Oh my gosh.
There's like a conference room, like when you go to NAB and they have it was like one of those. And the booth across from them had used the same exact stock photo as theirs. And
what?
The vice president of the company called me on a Sunday and was like, "This cannot happen again." And
so they just like pick some like stock.
It was stock
booth, essentially.
And it was around this time of year, a few years ago, and I had taken a bunch of pictures like at our friend's Christmas party with like my little Fuji, and she was like, "That's what I want," and I was like, "Really?" That was just, and she's like, "Can we shift all of the creative and your company act as..."
Wait, so the booth was a stock layout, or there's a photography that was stock?
The agency that designed it used stock, which is normal.
Yeah.
But so did the other company, and they across their competitor used the exact same stock photo, and it was.
Oh my God.
I'm sure both companies were pissed.
And
I'm sure it was like a Adobe stock or something.
Yeah.
Get original photography for your next trade show, people.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. And so so she said, "What if we shifted all the creative and Frank and Harvey acts as the creative director in this relationship?" Because I was unapologetic. Like I was like, "We don't do websites. We don't do SEO. We don't do Google ads. I have no desire to do that. And what if..." And so she was the one that proposed it. And I went home and I was like, "Sarah, I think we have an ad agency on our hands." So then it was like, okay, I got to get the right people in place to be able to deliver on what we can promise. That was the big thing. It was like, I went to a lot of those sales meetings when I was working at agencies where they would promise the moon, and then we'd get in the car and be like, "How are we going to pull this shit off?"
Yeah.
And I just was like, I really don't want to do that. The stress of that is just, so it's like, okay, I can get this guy to do design. I can get this person, but most importantly, I need a project manager and an operations person. If we're going to have a bunch of creatives working for us, I got to have somebody to keep it on the rails. And that was like detrimental to us being able to do what we do. Yeah.
So, detrimental or instrumental?
Detrimental. It would not,
the lack of having that person.
It would not work for me if I didn't have somebody keeping it all on the rails, managing projects.
So you found someone that fills that. Okay.
Yeah.
And so do you have employees currently, or are they working as freelancers?
So the other thing I watched when I was at agencies is that you would get it. So one of the agencies I worked at, we got like a $3 or $4 million account. It was a huge deal, right? And they had, 15 employees, right? Well, they ramped up, hired all these people. I think I was maybe part of that hiring, and then that client went away. So then it's like
they had to fire everyone.
Well, they were holding on, thinking, "Man, if we could just get that one, we can get one more, we can get more and more." And then it was like COVID hit, and it was like, just kind of blew all that up. And so I was like, I think you can do it and have everybody be 1099, and that's the way I'm doing it. Yeah. That way. So last year we did have a client cut their budget by 50%. And it wasn't a big deal because then I'm just like, sorry, I'm not going to have that retainer with you anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing the other bigger reason I do that is less financial and more for creative.
Yes.
Because when I worked at agency, I also noticed that the designers that were there for a really long time kind of sucked. And no offense if you've been in an agency, I'm sure you're awesome. But freelancers are better creatives, primarily from the fact that they're hungry.
Yep.
They're not getting a check every other week, and they often do better work. And then I just had worked with so many freelancers over the years that I knew that these people wouldn't want a job.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's the other thing. It's like really good creative people do not want to go work in an office.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, and it's also the flip side of that. We were just talking about this the other day, Josiah and I, is if someone asks me to produce a project, and they're putting up, let's say, whether it's their business's dollars or their personal dollars, I take that very seriously, number one, but then it's my reputation on the line. So whoever I hire, the direction it goes, that's going to go back to me. So of course I'm going to be putting in probably double the hours I'm really technically getting paid just to ensure everything goes smoothly, that, you know, everyone's on board with what we're doing, that the client knows the expectations and, you know, what we're delivering, the whole process, right? So I think if you're working for another business, you're not going to put in that same
just doing
passion.
Good enough to not get fired.
Yeah, and that's
some people do though. I mean, I don't want to shit on everybody. It's like I'm talking about.
But
just
you have an umbrella
yeah.
company. If you're working for an agency, you have that protection layer of the company name under you. So if you do kind of a half-assed job, it's not going to be as big of a deal.
Well, I think sometimes in those environments you have to do a half-assed job because you have EBITDA, which is like, I don't even know what that stands for. That's how bad I am at finance, but it's sort of this idea that you better be billing 80% of your time. Some agencies will have 80-20, 70-30. So they're like, you know, you might be spending weeks on a project and finish on a Tuesday. Well, on Wednesday, you got to jump on the next one. So there's like this it's like a machine shop.
Got to be a machine.
Yeah. And I think a lot of really, really good agency owners would probably be really good at running manufacturing companies because it's just all about efficiencies and time. And
there's a lot of nuggets in here. Though.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why some of them are really successful, you know? And for me, you know, systems and efficiency is a struggle. So I've had to force myself to quit being a little 16-year-old Corbin and figure it out. Because if you want to do this, you're going to have to figure that out. But the biggest question I have right now, and I just was talking to a friend of mine who's a business consultant. He's like, well, you need better systems. And I was like, great. You figure out how to systemize creativity, and then we can go buy a yacht, because I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to I can systemize the execution of creative. I cannot figure out how to systemize the ideation, the worldview that I have, the taste. It's like it's really tough to put that into a spreadsheet.
Something that comes to people's minds might be AI, but what does AI lack? Probably the biggest thing is taste, right? Like what?
I don't know.
I mean, it can replicate something in a certain style, but it's just regurgitating something with no context of like what you're trying to achieve. There's no like tangible, purpose. Like you have to. I mean, you can tailor and tailor.
I know
and
that it's possible. I know that it's possible. It's just I haven't met the right people to explain how that is possible. I was just before I came here, I was looking at the small agency of the year that won this award from Ad Age, or one of those magazines that nobody reads anymore. But it was Quality Meats, and that's the name of the agency.
Quality Meats, and like MEATS.
Yeah.
Oh, is it meat as in like the stuff you eat?
Yeah, their logo is like a steak, Yeah, and they do stuff for like Huggies.
No kidding.
Samsung. And I was just looking at their website, and they're sort of like similar to what I strive to be, which is sort of this hybrid content creation. We lead with that. We lead with photography, video, but we're also helping with execution of entire ad campaigns, And so I came across that, and I was like, somehow they've figured out how to systemize creativity. And so it is possible. It's just something new that I've never thought about. The way I came up was you just outwork everybody. But if you want to create a company, and if you want to create a living and maybe create a little bit more money, you have to figure out how to systemize it. And that's something I'm working really hard on. Yeah.
Interesting. That's one I'd like to delve in a little bit more. So number one, through this business coach, what kind of systems is he helping you put into place?
I should back up and say this business, he is a business consultant, but he's just like a drinking buddy of mine. So.
Okay. No, but I mean, you're just not getting billed for it. So that's even better.
It's a lot cheaper than a business coach.
No, but so if he's looking at your business objectively, what kind of things is he telling you to kind of implement within
Unfortunately, not unfortunately, but like my assumptions are right. It is a it is a difficult code to crack, because it's also probably what would prevent us from growing is that the creative flows through me, and I'm also the clog in the machine, because everybody's waiting
the bottleneck
for me to direct them creatively. And so it's difficult to figure out how to systemize that. And I should say, what we've talked about is it's not difficult to systemize it. It's difficult to systemize it and keep the quality standards where I want, because that creativity is what brings us to the table. Back to my story of sitting in the office of the VP of a pretty big company, and she's pointing at my drunken, pictures from my friend's Christmas party, and she's like, I want that. And I'm like, and I brought that up to him. I'm like, how do I put that into a spreadsheet? Tell me how to do it. Because I could tell you what camera to grab. I don't know how to tell you how to get that shot. It just happened, And so that's something that I'm working on and trying to figure out. But I know it's possible, because agencies do it all the time. They have account directors who run all the business part. Then they have multiple creative directors. So it's like, yeah.
Would that be the fix? Is just having multiple creative directors that kind of answer to you for the overall vision for different projects?
Yeah, if money's not an
I'm just trying to figure out in my mind visually how that would work.
Yeah.
One top tier person, 3, 4 underneath, and then you have the team underneath them.
It's really easy to build an org chart, but when your cash flow doesn't match your org chart and you're growing, it's tough. You know, you have to. I think, and this is new to me. It's like I've always just been sort of like, yeah, I'll come pressure wash your deck for my day rate. I don't. But now I'm like, okay, I got to build. If I want to build a business, I got to figure some of this stuff out, and I didn't go to school for that at all.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it's very possible, but you're also, as an owner, you're also the sales guy. You're also the marketing person, and you're also the operations. I have help with that, tremendous help. But how do you do all of that where you're getting new business so that then you could build a team of different creative directors? Or partners is how I would say it. Collaborators. Because I at the end of the day, I want to stay small. I want to have enough to pay my friends and have a good time. And one of the things that we're working on right now that we wrote a document around is we want the company to be sustainable and enjoyable. And it's really important to me.
Yeah.
And that's often what we pitch to clients is like, let's build a strategy that's going to be sustainable and enjoyable, not chasing after trends.
That's great. I love that.
Doing some fucking TikTok dance just to get views, but like, is that sustainable and is it enjoyable?
Do you want to enjoy this process going forward the next 3 years?
No one's dancing now.
Yeah.
By the way, I think that fad is over. I haven't seen a TikTok dance in so long.
You just put this campaign together for 2025.
I am so grateful to not see that anymore.
Note to self, cancel the
dance. Did you have a Frank and Harvey dance already?
I'm huge on TikTok, but it's my secret dance page.
Yeah. Okay.
We're going to be scouring the web to find that now.
The link to my OnlyFans is in that bio. It's a long story.
I've seen that. Yeah, I'm a subscriber.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So that's kind of been my goal. I've had friends of mine who have always talked about, hey, it would be cool to build a team, and then make that team larger so we can, do big productions. And I go, no way. Would I ever want to manage a team of, if I have maybe 2-3 people that I work with consistently, every day or every other day, but that are outside of, my personal, oversight. I just think that's too much. That's too much headache. I don't want to be an owner in that way. I want to be free to create. Is that how you feel, to where it's more trapping and you're running a business at that point rather than creating?
I don't know. I often have imposter syndrome, and I often feel like I'm building the plane while it's in flight. And I'm often kind of going, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
if the job comes
I feel like
in,
maybe you're the only person that feels that way in the creative world.
I maybe to admit it, but I feel like if I knew, it's what I'd say in pitches when somebody's, some accounting person from the accounting department's like, well, what's the ROI on our marketing? And I'm like, if I knew the answer to that, I'd be on a yacht right now. Like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like this, what we do is subjective.
If I had a crystal ball to predict what was, this input was going to output.
Yeah. And I think that's some of the stuff that I'm obsessed with right now is like, okay, how do we build our own sales and marketing strategy to get the work? But then that part's maybe easier than actually doing the work. So you kind of have to have the house in order before you do any sort of sales and marketing, like who's going to answer the phone? And so part of me is like, I get comfortable and then I'm like, okay, we can take the foot off the gas on the sales and marketing, because we're so busy executing the thing that we sold and needing to deliver on it. But to answer your question, I don't know. I wish I did, and I think that's the part of having that tolerance for uncertainty is like, I don't know. I don't see that far forward. I just kind of look at like next month and I'm like, okay, we got to get these people in place to do this thing. And that's just kind of how I've been building it. And I think though, at the end of the day, I'm betting the farm on good work and good creative, the best that I can do. I'm not the best in the world, but I'm really good at a few things. So let's bet the farm on that. Cause I know I can deliver that. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, we do this. Yeah, we do. We'll do your website. It's like, no. If it's not Squarespace, I'm not doing your website. Even if it's that, I'll do it. I've done it for a friend, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in that. So
going to imposter syndrome, is there, because at the end of the day, like you said, we are our own, we have to sell. We have to come up with a creative vision. Then you're involved in the whole process. Does that affect, if you get in a mind funk, does that affect the sales process or the creative process? Because to me, for sure, there's points where I'm in a meeting or I'm pitching a project, and then that thought of, you're an orphan from Russia, and then all of a sudden you're here. And I'm like, this is bonkers that I'm even here,
This is not hyperbole, by the way, if you didn't know.
No, I know that.
Yeah. But no, that's really the mindset. And it's like I'm almost transported to who I was at the very core of me. And then I go, I'm not good enough to be in this, meeting. I'm not good enough to do this project, and all these self-doubts coming in. So how do you combat that? Because I've gotten much better than I was when I first started. I think it just takes practice maybe. But are there things that number one, does that still happen after years and years in the industry?
Yeah,
and then what are some of those what's the word I'm looking for? But measures they can take against those thoughts just kind of coming in and wrecking the whole process of, whether you're selling a project or pitching or whatever it is.
Yeah, I have an existential crisis every Tuesday.
You schedule it so you can predict it?
I kind of do. No
Tuesday
joke.
is my day to melt down, then I'll be good for the pitch on Wednesday.
Meeting day. I try to schedule all my meetings on Tuesday.
Oh, on Tuesday, really? Okay.
Because you got to have
time. Wow,
time.
one full day?
Just get it over with. But then Tuesday night is like existential, like, what am I doing? I got to write this script. And,
Your wife is just like, I know that's the night.
I probably should quit. That. Yeah, that's
interesting.
But I will say two things, or a couple of things of what I do is like, I think that volume of that voice has started to turn down a little bit just because I'm getting older. Like I was telling somebody the other day, is like once you turn 40, and I'm 47, it's like you kind of stop giving a fuck a little bit, which I think is healthy. Like you're just kind of like, you know what, I've been doing this long enough. I'm going to do a great job.
Yeah.
It's really hard to believe that sometimes. But there are certain, it sounds really weird, but I have a couple of different playlists that I do before I go to a pitch meeting.
No, so do I.
Yeah. I have a playlist for
Eye of the Tiger.
No, a lot darker than that. I have a playlist for when I have to do spreadsheets that involves like metal, like some death metal.
These numbers will be in place by the end of the day.
It's just... Yeah, and some, it's like
Good
Also,
imitation, by the way.
I rotate between that and then like I have like it's called the playlist is called Toolish, so it's like Tool, System of the Down, and Chevelle. I don't know why. There's some tone or frequency that allows me to be like, you know.
I kind of feel like this is the point where we should be taking notes and like reverse engineering.
No.
Oh, I am.
Hopefully you're recording.
Kiko's doing
You got that hard drive backed up already?
Yeah, we're gonna lose it.
Do we have a hard drive?
I am not coming back if you lose this footage.
That was too perfect.
This is fucking gold.
I'm watching that little
the numbers
there,
going
and the numbers going up is a good sign.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
No, we're good. We're good.
I brought a hard drive.
Hey, let's make
That
copies.
works.
That's what I was telling. I was like, nothing stung more, but I was like, yeah, that understood. That was totally deserved. When before we hung up last week, you're like, "Do you want me to bring a hard drive?" It's like, nah, I got 2, 3. I'm good. We're covered. I promise. No, but
So the other playlist, and I have like a Wu-Tang Clan playlist. I don't know why. I grew up in the 90s, and so it's like this. It just gets me going, and I'm like, I got this. You know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast with one of the Wu-Tang Clan members, and that was very interesting. I mean,
Rakim.
pop was not what it was, or rap. Sorry, right? It was rap. He was rap. So it was.
Let you die on that
Dick,
sword.
keep going. No, but it was interesting, that whole background into it. So I've heard the band name, but until I listened to that podcast, then it gave me like some sort of reference.
Please don't tell me you have a T-shirt and you never listened to them.
I do not have a T. No.
Okay, good.
I was born in '95, so I was
My daughter
and in Russia for until 10 years.
My daughter's a freshman, and she came home with a Nirvana shirt, and I was like, "Name 3 songs," and then she did, and I was like, "Oh, dang. All right, I raised you."
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I was gonna say you've cultured.
She bought
her
it
well.
at Walmart.
Yeah. So
yeah, if you want advice, I would be like, you got to figure out what are those little things that when that voice comes up of imposter that I have. Yeah, I have like music that like before a shoot, I listen to this band called Tycho. It's like instrumental, and I just kind of calm myself down. I know I sound like a neurotic mess, but those are little things that like for a while when I was really dealing with anxiety, I would put headphones on during a shoot when I was shooting B-roll and listen to like calming music because my shots were like kind of spastic, and it was because I was nervous, right? And so I was like, I gotta calm myself down.
I'm cutting too early. I was on that for like 2.5 seconds.
And so I started just putting AirPods in and just would shoot and just kind of really get into it and, kind of zen. And so I do that now. And before a shoot, I have a playlist that I listen to, and I'm sure there's some sort of science behind like the same music in the same situations because it works for me, and it kind of just, when I'm traveling next week and I have like airplane music. So when I'm walking through the airport, it's just like, let's bring that down a little bit,
Yeah.
And I think that's important to figure that out. It's different for everybody.
I feel like you could almost sell these playlists.
No, you just,
on like a
no.
This could be like could be your next money making thing.
Yeah,
like this is the playlist you need to play when you're feeling like this.
Do you like silence? Or do you have to have music?
I don't love silence. I really am really good at doing nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, I walked through the airport recently, and I put my AirPods to the mode where you can't hear, the isolation mode, where you just like nothing. You hear nothing. Noise canceling. Thank you. And that was so relaxing. It was fun to watch everybody, but you don't have that like auditory
input. Distraction.
Yeah, so it really is, and it really great for working. I sat down at the airport for like an hour and a half and did a bunch of work. But I like the visual stimulation, but the audio, the input was too much. So that was actually really nice and calming.
That's probably why I do instrumental.
Yeah. And going back to holding on shots long enough, when we shot together, was it last year? Or over a year ago. But anyway, I was like, hey, Colin, what because I went out and got a few shots. He's like, do you have any feedback for me? Was Corbin happy? And he's like, yeah, pretty good. He just said he had one note. It was, you didn't hold long enough on shots. And I was like,
I think the note was tell Victor to calm the fuck down.
Yeah.
And then Kellen just tempered it down.
Yeah. So I took that away and I was like, yeah, even in my own shots, I noticed that I wasn't holding long enough because, I used to be involved way more into film. And then once you go into commercial world, you just need to get as many shots as possible in a short amount of time, sometimes, a lot of times. And then I all of a sudden developed this instinct to like roll, couple seconds, done, move on, next angle.
That was an issue when I used to shoot too. That was an issue I had. And I literally had to count in my head.
Oh,
I'd
really?
Be like,
that's nice. That's good.
2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, okay, now I can stop.
Yeah.
And you feel like you're there forever, but then in post, you're like, boy, am I glad I was there for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I do 15.
Holy cow.
Do you really? Oh, so my clips were really short.
Because in documentary, which I do a lot of documentary,
you need it longer.
you could go 30.
Yes.
Like put it on a tripod and leave it.
I don't want to. I don't want to have to cut back
It's
to the
so
person's
hard,
face
though.
again.
15 is a long time.
That's a real long time.
But
That's half an ad.
because my background in video was primarily editing, it's like when I would get on shoots, I'd be like, okay, how long do I need? I always will say, give me more at the head and give me more at the tail. And so it's like 15 has worked for me. And it's really hard to just be like, especially if you're like we were in a restaurant where people are working, just to stand there.
And customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You always feel the pressure that you got to keep moving, but in the context of the day, is that extra 10 to 12 seconds gonna ruin your day?
no, because you're gonna get in the edit and you're gonna be so pissed that you didn't take that time.
Right?
Well, and you know what I really noticed is I'm doing a personal documentary on my grandpa, and I brought that same style into the documentary because it's going to be a long form doc. And all of a sudden I'm having a bunch of these short shots in different angles. And I go, what the heck am I doing? This isn't what I started out doing. Like I'm here to capture the story, whether it's the story of him, in his shop doing some woodworking, he goes, grabs a chainsaw, then he goes, grabs a sharpener for that chain and starts sharpening. Let's capture that whole process instead of like cut,
Or
which
just
is what we do often in
Set
commercial.
up an extra camera.
Yeah.
Put it on the wide and hit record and then go get your shot.
So that was eye-opening to see like the different styles at play that I've been weirdly developing. So and with your note, I was like, okay, shoot, I really gotta focus on.
Sorry, it was
going
maybe
on.
harsh.
No, and you need that. I don't think it was.
Well, you'll remember
Plus,
it. That's why
I heard it
that
from
way.
Colin, who phrased it probably very nicely.
He's so much nicer than I am.
No, but that's important. So I don't think we
Can I
touched
throw
on
one more thing on,
Yeah, go
on the
ahead.
camera operator side of things?
Yeah.
Probably one of the last projects I camera operated on, and then it made me realize I'm really not this is not what I do anymore. So I was working on a TV show. It was like a kind of like an extreme home makeover sort of thing. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can run a camera. I'll set some lights and I'll run a camera for you. No problem. And then I think it was like a 3 or 4 day project. Kiko was on it. He's looking at me right now.
Kiko knows.
I mean, I've been, working in the short form commercial, like advertising stuff mainly, but this was more of a long form show. And the DP, because it was like one DP from Florida or something, and then we were all just camera operators under him, getting the stuff that he wanted. And kind of our regroup session after the first day, he's like, I don't forget. Do you remember what he said exactly?
It was, I think there was another camera up. I think it was Frank. He's like, Frank has been shooting. He's got so many. Like,
tell me why Frank has like 3 times as many shots as you do, or something like that. I'm like, I don't know. So I think I was waiting for the perfect shot all the time.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, this is great composition. The light works, yada yada. I'll shoot this shot. But he just wanted time filler.
Yeah.
Volume. Yeah.
It's
I'm like,
tough. It
okay,
depends on the project.
I'm just out. I'm not in this frame of mind anymore.
But I've been on shoots where we're doing doc stuff, and then all of a sudden someone sees that I've already filled up a card, and like we're at 11 o'clock in the morning. They go, "You already filled up a card? Like we don't have to shoot that much. And I go, oh, crap. Like, so sometimes
you can go either way, I suppose.
I wonder if that's a conversation to be had. I mean, well, now I do.
I think it depends if you're talking to an editor.
Longer.
Maybe. You know, when I edit, I'd rather have stuff.
I can always scrub faster.
Yeah.
But now that's, so next week.
And then if whoever said that, I'd be like, what is this, your first documentary? You didn't bring extra cards?
You brought one freaking
yeah,
card?
Right.
What are we worried about?
What kind of third-rate project is this?
Yeah. Well, like the shoot next week, we're filming for 3 days, and I'm B-roll mostly with a couple interviews. And I'm like, okay, how much B-roll do you want? Because I don't want to be in that position of like, we don't have enough. That would be the worst. But if it's too much, that's no good either, because you don't have the hard drives to store it, whatever. They might not be prepped. So I was making a point now just to talk to them, like, hey, how much coverage are you wanting? How long it would take? Just a little bit more specified.
I'm sure somebody smarter than me probably has a ratio, but
maybe.
I lean towards, well, what's the story? That's how much footage you need. Can you tell the story with the footage that you have? Then okay. If it takes you 5 minutes to get that, then great.
The story of the scene you're shooting.
Yeah.
Because as a camera operator, you don't know necessarily what the story is.
No, but if I'm talking specifically documentary, you can tell what's the story here, what's going on. You know, even if it's a restaurant, it's like, well, it's busy, or it's not busy.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
like
there's an empty table over there. Oh wait, they don't want to show that. This is a commercial project.
Yeah. So sometimes I've done documentaries, and it takes 20 minutes, you know, to get the B-roll, because you're like, okay, I got it. You know, because the story, and you know that the video is going to be 2 minutes, you know. But if it's, you know, somebody just talked about doing like turning a short form documentary into like a 30-minute documentary. And I was like, well, that's not possible because we're shooting for a 3-minute thing. A 30-minute thing is like,
we're going to have
days,
to have,
you know?
Right.
So
more shooting.
I'm sure there's a ratio. I'll just make one up. 4-to-1. I don't know. 5-to-1. What do you guys think? I don't know.
Yeah, that would be interesting. There's got to be formulas out there. Yeah,
I wouldn't follow it if you want my recommendation. Like I would like be okay. That's interesting.
Yeah,
and then
just know
don't give me
guide,
that mental handcuff.
Yeah, don't worry about that. But I'm sure like, you know, guys that are working on reality TV have probably down to a spreadsheet of what that ratio is.
Oh, true.
Yeah, because they're you know, cranking.
Yeah,
So.
I've worked on a couple of them, and actually not really. I think some of them have been really. So one was for the Outdoors channel. One was for travel. They're pretty much kind of like what we do. Yeah. I mean, there's not really any difference. Sometimes it's longer things, sometimes it's not. So, but yeah. Anyway, I wanted to go back to. I don't think we talked about fully of what it is you offer within your agency.
Oh, sure.
So what are some of those?
Agency.
What are some of those things?
Agency.
You don't do SEO. You don't do websites. What are the things that you do offer and like to be involved with?
Yeah. So I should just read it off of my website.
Yeah.
That I had ChatGPT write. No, I'm kidding.
You know what?
Frank and Harvey is the best thing this side of the Mississippi.
I was gonna say you should have those memorized, but I was being Colin polite. So
yeah, we do script writing, but I just put it in ChatGPT, and then so primarily what we lead with is going to be branding and marketing strategies. So if you're taking a marketing or a brand from zero to launch, you know, we do a lot of that. Content strategy is going to be like top of the list. What are you trying to accomplish? That doesn't mean social media
Content strategy, yeah.
So we're going to go, okay, that's great. You want to do this about video for your company, but how many different pieces can we pull from that you could use in social media, which then led to them wanting us to plan their social media. So we help with that. We're not great at I would say the consumer side of social media. B2B is like pretty accessible for me. I understand it. We spend a lot of time in LinkedIn, you know, and that's primarily because a lot of my clients are manufacturing. So they're not going to be on Facebook, you know.
Would you say B2C is a little bit more involved?
B2C, it's just not
mindset.
It's just not a space I spend time in, and I'm not working with clients that have that kind of budget. You know, and it's just not it's just not something that's come across.
I feel like you really have to niche down a lot more for that.
We certainly have done B2C.
Yeah.
campaigns, but the day-to-day social media, we don't have the infrastructure to do that.
Okay.
For the layman, this is business to business versus business to consumer.
Yeah. So it'd be the difference between Yeti would be a consumer brand, and then the company that makes the cup or the machine that makes the cup is B2B. So they're going to be selling to whoever is,
or that makes the lid, which may be a different company.
Yeah. I'm sure they do it all in China, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's primarily where we shine, is in that space, is B2B. And so we're doing stuff right now. Next week, we're doing their entire content, not only their strategy, but we're doing their content creation in a week. And we're going to probably produce 30 or 40 pieces for the year. And then we're doing something right now, which is a motion graphics piece for another software company that is launching soon. And then,
do you do motion graphic stuff, or you have people to do that, or you do? Okay.
I try not to, but this one in particular, the budget wasn't great. And so I jumped in on it.
Sure.
Yeah. Just to get it done.
Yeah.
And it's January.
No, I'm shooting next week, it's just we're not as busy as July or June.
Yeah. One of the things
I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question. Overall, though, like that go-to-market strategy, B2B marketing, that's kind of where our sweet spot is right now.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that talking to you earlier, and when I met you working together, year and a half, whatever it was ago, is always, to me, it's interesting how different people approach working with a new brand. So let's say I'm a brand with a few $100,000 worth of budget for a year. What does that process look like from the beginning of the starter conversation all the way to figuring out their plan? What are the steps that you're taking in order to understand them fully, in order to see how you can help, and then, to execution?
Sure. Let's put the budget aside. I would say there's a couple of red flags. Do you have an existing marketing budget? That's always much better. If they don't, and they're like, we don't even know how much it costs, it's going to be like, ugh, it's not going to go well. Sometimes it does.
That's a great question. Existing marketing budget.
Yeah. If you're a bigger company, especially if you're going to be spending that much, it's a line item in a spreadsheet. Yeah. So tell me what that is.
Yeah.
So it's not beat around the bush here.
Yeah. Now, we don't do RFPs traditionally. And so usually it is a relationship that's important before we're ever in the conference room trying to sell it. It's like, do we have a rapport? So then there's conversation around that. Hey, do you already have a marketing budget that you need to stay within? Great. Why don't you just give me that number? So then I'll back into that and kind of say, here's what I would recommend. Our process looks a little bit like this. I just had a company reach out to me, and they wanted to do a content strategy and then overall content for a B2B manufacturing. So what I do is I'll sit down and I put together a pitch deck as if I'm going to be in the room. And I just do it on Google Slides, and I just take a half hour and I just go of ideas, right? And then I'll kind of go, here are 4 different projects that we could do, and here's some rough wet cement ideas. And then once the presentation is done, I jump on a software called Loom, which is just a screen recording software.
Oh, okay.
And it uses your webcam, so I'm like in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm like, hey, Bob.
So you talk them through the pitch. Oh, that's a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, and I just go, hey, it was great talking to you on the phone. I just threw together some ideas. Here's what I'm loosely thinking. Before we start really getting serious, here's just some ideas I came up with yesterday. And they're loose,
Yeah.
Over time, they've kind of fall into a few different categories, So if it's a new brand, they're not going to have $200,000, but But if you mean like a new client,
new to you, yeah.
So it often is either somebody that already has an existing marketing budget and they're pissed off at their agency and they're looking for somebody new, or it's somebody who knows that they need to increase that, and so it involves some coaching along the way. So I like to just kind of go, even if honestly, I just did one the other day that it was a really small job and I did it anyways. I like doing it. I put together like what they wanted, and then I put together like, here's some just crazy ideas. Like, what if? Because sometimes they'll go, ooh, yeah, let's do that. You know?
What if we did try to do that?
Yeah. And plus I would just get bored if I just was like doing a quote. It's like I like to think through the ideas, so then it sort of gets me going, okay, is that pricing going to be right if we do that idea? And I'm vague-ish with it. I'm not writing a script because I've done that before in the pitch process.
Too much work without a commitment.
I've made that mistake.
Oh, I wrote one, and then I was like watching TV one night, and I was like, God, that sounds familiar. And then
I wrote that.
I opened up my Google Drive, and I was like, I think that was for that. And I was like, motherfuckers. They just took the script.
Oh, my God.
I was furious. Anyway, so yeah, I try to just put together these, just a pitch deck with some ideas, talk them through it. Loom is awesome. I do that a lot. I just had a client.
Loom?
Yeah, Loom. Yep. And I use that with my designers, with my editors. You can just pull it up. I don't have to write it all in an email. I can just record, to the designer, hey, change this, draw that, and you can draw, and it's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's a really good collaborating tool. I just did one. We got hired to do a photo shoot. It was a one-off. Person got my name from somebody, went and did it while we were on the shoot. The lady was like frustrated with their ad agency. And we just got talking, and I said, well, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? So I went home. The next day I woke up, put together 5 ideas. Boom, boom, boom. Recorded a Loom, sent it to her. She's going to book us in February.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Would you say you're like an ideas machine? Is that something that you feel like comes to you easily and energizes you?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, way more than execution. But I always say, I met a homeless guy that said he invented rollerblades. He never executed the idea. And so the execution is...
You need both.
It's a close second. But if there was a strength that we have as a company is that idea generation. And then execution is like, I know the right people.
Yeah.
Which is what I love what you guys are doing here. I had that food shoot, and I was like, does anybody know a stylist? And you guys are like, yep.
A secret stylist.
Yeah, she was great. But
who? Jen.
Oh,
she
Jen, she
Yeah.
is. She definitely is. She's doing it all the time for their brand. Do you ever feel the pressure to come up with that original idea or something new, fresh? Because that to me is always a little bit of a block. I go, because so many things have been done, and then trying to be new and fresh sometimes blocks, like the creative decisions, or like just start on that creative idea. What's your process like, and does that ever hold you up?
I would say no, because nothing's original. I'm copying whoever.
Da Vinci, who could be
no,
Aristotle.
If I came up with an idea, I probably saw it somewhere else.
Yeah,
I'll even put those in my pitch. Hey, I saw this ad, and I'll put the link right in there. I'm like, what if we did? What if we
blend this ad with this idea?
I'm just copying, but what's different is through my worldview, my experiences,
and your
that
taste.
makes it original. The part that I would say that makes me nervous is the execution, because I'm better at ideating than or often the ideas are better than the budget.
Yes, we've had that issue.
Cheers. Right? So...
I probably
and at the end of the day,
the one music video pitch we just
the last like 3 projects
I'm
I
like,
produced,
that's like $800,000 concept.
Yeah.
Are you a big reader? Do you consume
listener.
a lot of listen? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, audiobooks.
I mean, if I'm going to consume a book, it's
I'm
listening.
trying
to
to read physical
That's me too.
more, but TikTok is way better. And I love conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
It's way more entertaining.
Was there a Joe Biden clone? This has been my research for 3 months. Do you think you've gotten more creative as you've gotten older?
I would say I've gotten less. How do I say this? This just happens, and it's not bad. I think the more responsibility you have, the more responsible you are. So the less naive you are, right? So often you're like, the budget's $5,000, and so you're not going to have a $200,000 idea.
Yeah,
I've trained myself.
You can't have 8 people on set to do this.
We just had a client that wanted some motion graphics, and they sent me a Vox News video, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not happening for $2,500.
yeah.
Sorry, I know you like that, but so I think it's a balance, right? It's the more responsibility that I have gotten in my life, the more cynical I get, or the more
Realistic.
Yeah, or pessimistic sometimes. So you have to kind of fight that to be but at the end of the day, a lot of people want the same thing. So a lot of times I'm regurgitating things that maybe didn't work for that client.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That tone. And then over the years, the more I started writing scripts and writing presentations, that's why I do those pitches, because it's practicing, it's keeping that brain muscle moving, you know, that ideation of being able to generate ideas. I think the book I read a long time ago was James Altucher. It was like something like Bet on Yourself, or that's not the right one.
I think I've
Choose Yourself. That's what it is.
Choose
Choose
Yourself.
Yourself.
Okay.
James Altucher, great book. And there's a whole chapter on being an idea machine. And so he talks about, he would have like a little notepad, and he'd go to a restaurant, and he would just write down everything he would change about the restaurant. I'd change this, I'd change that. I do that.
Hand it to the manager and leave.
No, my wife would tell you it's a little irritating because I do that. But I'm not writing it down. I'm telling my wife, I would change this, I would change that, And then there's some restaurants I'm like, this is perfect, and exercising.
Such as Taco Bell? Is that?
No, it's the. I'm a shout out to the Whiffle Tree in Roscoe, the greatest patty melt in all of the land.
Whiffle Tree.
I've never
been there. So apparently we need to make a excursion.
Yep.
Here.
Whiffle Tree. Okay.
Yep. I went in there the other night, and the bartender handed me my regular drink, and I was like, "Did I just become a townie?" And she's like, "Yep." And I was like, I think that's good. No? But yeah, for me to be able to make a living, and that's what I'm betting the farm on, is similar to your point. I'm like, there's people that are way better at operating a camera than I am. There's people that are better at lighting. There's people that are better at editing. Not too many. But
there's 4. They're all in the way.
There's people that are just better. So, but over and over and over, people would just kind of say, "Man, how did you come up with that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I was just sat down at the computer and came up with it." And then I read that book, and I was like, "Oh, I need to continually always be like practicing that and figuring it out." And it's a weird obsession, if you will. Are
you familiar with the idea of the creative muse?
Yeah.
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 Do you think that kind of applies
100%
to your work?
Yeah.
Where how do you feel like you summon some ideas, or do they just come to you through repetition and through past experiences, or do you actually sit down and almost make it ritualistic in order for that idea to kind of sprout and then grow?
What's the concept of the creative muse?
Do you want to explain?
No, go ahead.
I don't know if I have a great explanation of it, but basically
like in the classical sense of like
the muse
muses, or
no, the muse would be kind of a construct of your mind where you tap into this kind of powerful resource within your mind that doesn't physically exist, but you allow yourself, you open up yourself to this this kind of muse in order for the thoughts, the ideas, the energy to kind of flow into you. And a lot of artists that are mainstream writers, directors, they really claim there's a book by a guy.
The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Yes. So he talks about the muse, and he explains it in such a, I don't know if you have a better explanation than I just did. I'm sure you do. But the way he explains it is so fascinating. And he makes it basically like almost like a religious ritual every time he goes down or he goes to write, and he tries to tap into this kind of almost all-powerful source, in a way, to be able to open himself up to these different ideas. So do you have a process like that, or do you think more so focused from experiences and, your...
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, I love that book.
I have yet to read it. I've heard so much good stuff about it, but
yeah. If you want to stay friends with me, you have to read that book.
Yeah.
So
it
is. It is absolutely necessary reading, and it can serve as a Bible.
What's the title again?
The War of Art.
The War of Art. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And basically, the idea, I'll summarize it. It's like, in order to be creative and make a living, you got to be disciplined. To which I'm not. I go in spurts. I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna write every day.
Spurts of discipline.
And then I'm not. I think I probably wrote something about it. Is I'm consistently inconsistent. It's like. But I also, now the older I get, I'm like, but that's where the magic comes from, and that's okay. So quit judging yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be like as disciplined as somebody who's just naturally disciplined. I'm not. But I'm better at that person than at coming up with ideas. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the idea is a little less, from my perspective, is a little less dramatic. Is more just like, just keep exercising that muscle. Mm-hmm. However, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whether it's swinging a hammer. For me, it's like it is a combo of writing, but often too, it's working with my hands. So I got to build something.
Yeah.
I got to create something with my hands, and in that process, there becomes meditation. So if I have a big project, I will build a box. There's something about throwing a podcast on and getting my saw out and just build it. It can be something that goes on my pegboard. It doesn't have to be a table. It's just something about working with my hands and problem solving that way is a huge part of my creative process. And if I haven't done that in a while, I get wonky.
Yeah.
And I would say that the thing about that book that he talks about is that discipline of just showing up and hoping. It's not a formula. Hoping that the idea comes.
I think I had a buddy give me that book, but it was a physical book, so I never read it.
It's on Audible.
Give it to me.
I'll see if I can dig it up. I think Seth gave it to me, actually.
Oh, did he? I've been trying to do, number one, because we're doing a podcast and meeting with clients, I'm like, my vocabulary, come on, get yourself together. You're almost 30. And I feel like you talk like I mean, you should hear me in Russian. I'm so intellectual. No, but I want to read the actual physical words. I process better with audio, but I think it would help to actually read the books itself.
That's one of those books I've listened to, I don't know, at least once a year, and then I've also read it. Yeah, it's just one of those books that I come back to.
So I'm going through a book right now, listening to it because I don't read physically.
He can't read.
I can't read. Okay, thanks for calling me out here in front of the whole world. All 12 of us.
Dozens of people.
But can you back up your hard drives?
I have been known to do that. Although I haven't been involved in post in a decade. Kiko's just cackling in there.
He's loving it.
Make sure you cut to that camera and post.
Yeah.
Camera number 4 there. It's the 6 Working Geniuses. Have you heard of that one? Mm-hmm. Okay, you read that one? Or
no.
Okay, you've heard of it.
That's fine. I have heard of that. Okay. Yeah.
It's just, it's one of those kind of categorize your character by.
Is that Adam Grant? Is that the author?
I don't even know. That's how terrible I am.
Yeah, I've heard of that book.
But it's like it's more the context of like the type of person that you are, but in like a business or kind of productivity standpoint, or like getting
and then you pair up with.
Yeah, the people
staffing your weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But invention is one of them.
Yeah,
like one of those like geniuses or strengths, which is clearly one of yours. And I'm curious, kind of what. So it's like wonder, invention. It's widget is kind of the wonder, invention, galvanization, enablement, and tenacity.
Yeah, I think I've heard that.
Yeah,
Patrick Lencioni.
Yeah,
that's one. Yeah.
I interviewed him once, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Really?
Corbin's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, no kidding. What was this for?
Another side tangent thing I just need to get off my chest here right now. This is the second podcast we were recording today, and we were supposed to change our shirts.
No.
Yeah.
we did plan on it, but
this has been about 10 minutes into the podcast. I'm like, I just had to get that off my chest me right now.
Well,
I apologize.
So yeah, Corbin, can you come
failed.
back next week, Corbin, so we can because we need the outfit changes.
Kiko's deleting this right now.
Let me format this real quick.
I brought a different cardigan to make it look like we filmed on a different day. Sorry, you just it's like I feel like we're opening our sock drawer here.
I don't. We could just love these shirts.
Maybe we just wore them all the time.
Yeah,
with the same undershirt.
Corbin, one of the other questions I thought about was something. What do you think is that you see people doing wrong in marketing a lot? Whether it's a company or
an agency.
Or an agency, yeah. What do you think is either missing or something that you see often that you go, this old thing again? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
Oh yeah, that's easy to answer. Just don't sell what you don't do. Like, just
that's deep but simple at the same time.
Sell something that you know you can deliver on, and then if you can't, connect your client with the right person, and don't try to pull one over on them. If you don't do web design, find a good developer.
Maybe that's a reason why you don't like marketing agencies.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like,
because most of them they do 2 or 3 things in house, but then they outsource everything else,
which is fine. Like I do that, but I'm honest about it.
Yeah,
you know,
is not all of
them. Yeah, I'm just like, no, I don't do that, but let me connect you with these guys that do. And then it's like, it builds trust, right?
Yeah.
And I would also say just not even ad agencies, because I feel like I'm picking on ad agencies. I would just say, for creative services in general, it's like, number one, if you want to make a ton of money doing this, you're in the wrong business. Take your hustle elsewhere. And it's why I'm passionate about that statement of the tolerance of uncertainty. It's like, it is a really dumb business to get into. It's not a business that is going to be like, if you really want to make money, go into manufacturing, go into finance, go into something that is way more anti-fragile than this business. But the rest of you that can't not do this, then you got to figure out.
Because your life would be miserable.
Well, maybe not. Maybe you just, like for me, there's times where I'm doing this and I'm miserable. But this is just what I wake up and I think about it. You know, some days I don't want to think about it. But it's just something that is in me, and I just kept going and kept going, and the doors keep opening and they close, and I have to have this tremendous tolerance for uncertainty if I want to continue to do this long term, and because it's gonna be hard, and you're gonna be late on a credit card payment, and you're gonna be like, I don't think we can do this, and I'm speaking specifically to like this. Living in a small market like Rockford is really fucking hard to do this, because especially now, you've got 1,000 people that have a camera and they'll do it cheaper than you, and they're probably better than you, and so you have to be real nimble and creative and check your fucking ego at the door and be like, okay, do I really want to do this? Because it is not a way to like get rich. If you read any business book, it's like the dumbest possible business you can get into. You know, it just is. Like,
your little tidbit of encouragement there for.
Yeah. Well, you'd be better off buying a car wash. Like, honestly, you'd make way more money. But I think that's why people that do it, I don't know what else to do. And at the end of the day, I do love it.
Yeah, there's some sort of fulfillment in it.
Yeah, like, and it'll always happen this way. You start off, and then other people are going to be more successful, and you're going to get pissed because you know you're more talented than them. And there's plenty of people I could list that are way more talented than me, and they probably get pissed at me because I get clients, and it's like, no, that I'm not in it for a pissing match. And so to answer your question,
Yeah.
I wish agencies in general would just stop getting into a pissing match, first of all. And then second of all, what I think people do wrong is they look at this as like a hustle, and they think that it's just going to be this easy money. And there's seasons where it is easy money. There were seasons, especially early 2000s, there was a lot of money in this town to be had on production. It's partially why I was like, wait a minute, how much are they getting? You know, and I just was like, I'll do it, you know?
Yeah.
And I get that. But if you're looking for something that's going to be anti-fragile, meaning it's not going to go away and it's going to be a fail-safe, go be an electrician. Go be a plumber, because there's days
welder.
Yeah, and those guys make way more money than I do. And they're craftsmen, they're artists, they're beautiful. It's beautiful art that these guys do, right? And so if you're thinking that this is like a way to make money, I would say don't do it, because it's just day after day banging your head against the wall, chasing some sort of weird, call it the muse, call it God, call it whatever. For whatever reason, you wake up and you believe that you can do this and that you can do it better than the next guy. And that's difficult over time.
Yeah.
Speaking as the old guy, it's like, there's days where I'm just tired of trying to convince somebody to give me money. Yeah. I'm tired of it. I'm like, they should just see that I'm really great. Just give me your money. But it's like, no, it's just, that's part of the art, is like learning how to pitch, learning how to budget, learning how to build a spreadsheet, because then you're going to build something that's sustainable and enjoyable. You know? But if you're looking at it as like, oh, I can make a lot of money and rip a bunch of people off, and it's like, no, don't do it that way.
So there's a company that I have worked with a couple times. I know the owner of the company, and one of the difficult things that I'm having in convincing him to go, like, hey, smaller manufacturing company. So my goal was to be like, I want to be upfront, like, how much money do you want to spend in marketing? That way, you know, on video production solely.
Sure.
That way I know what we can plan for. And he gave me a figure. I go, okay, great. So let's plan out a few shoots. That way I can organize and effectively use those dollars from my side of things. From their side of things, they don't want to give up that chunk of change right away. So is there a process that you have, or things that you've learned along the way to kind of help either steer them in the right direction? Because ultimately, I mean, I think that is the best way to go about for both myself and the client, because we can both know what we're expecting from each other over the year, right?
Oh, 100%.
Whereas they go, oh, I might have a project here. In 2 months, I might have one here. It's like next week, you're shooting all the content in 1 week. That's effective. That spreads their dollar way farther.
That's efficient.
Efficient, yeah. Effective, not, yeah, efficient. So what would be some of your advice to communicate with companies in a proper way to help them understand the benefits of those things? And I know it's not like a one solution, but are there any steps that you take along that process that help?
I don't, because I think it's the dark arts, and I can't guarantee anything. That's maybe another thing where I'm like, I can't give you an ROI.
Well, no, and I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
But at least, or do most of your clients, this is a client that's not done much video production. You know, they're just starting to get into their video, and I'm into their marketing area. They've done none.
You're not going to get as much as you would want.
Well, and it's not even a number. I just want to be effective with their dollars, and I want to give them a direction to go. So probably now you have clients that just understand that process.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so
in the beginning,
I misheard your question.
Yeah.
I definitely do that all the time. And the way to do it is like, okay, so we're going to shoot an about, we'll just use this as an example. We're going to do an about video about, let's just say it's a software company, and we're going to sit down with the founders, and we're going to do 30-minute interviews with those founders. And then we're going to have a 2 to 3 minute video that's going to be on your website, or it's going to go in their pitch decks, or if they're speaking somewhere, they can play it before a convention or whatever. It's just this utilitarian about video. Well, out of that, we can take that interview and we can cut 10 pieces out of that interview for social media. And so the way that I have changed, it used to be, come shoot a 30-second commercial, done. And then it airs and then you're done. Now it's like, well, we're going to do this 30-second commercial, but we want 10 videos out of it. And I would kind of kicking and screaming. It was like, motherfucker, like it would make me mad. And then it's like, wait a minute, what if we already are there? What if we did this
extra stuff?
What if we did this?
Yeah.
Shoot that.
Yeah.
And so the way that I'll often with clients, unless they just want an about video, I'll be like, okay. So the documentary you were on, we went and shot the documentary. Out of that, there were 4 to 5 pieces, long form, 2 long forms, and then a few like 30-second clips. So that's how I will kind of go, this is how you're going to get a really good bang for your buck. Is I'll go, Gary Vee has this triangle if you Google it, and it's like an upside down triangle, and it's like you've got the long form, and then there's this funnel where, and now like when we do a documentary, we're like, okay, we're going to take that documentary, transcribe it, and then we'll do a blog post for SEO. And then also we'll do an email campaign around it. And we're just taking the transcript, writing a little thing, sending it out that way. So once then I diagram that out for customers, they really are like, oh, okay, that's worth the investment. That's one way. Some people, they don't have that, so they just want to be done and they want to spend as little as possible.
Yeah.
And that happens. I'm working with one right now, and I sent some general pricing, and they're just like, whoa. And so I'm probably not going to do it,
Yeah.
I can't afford $500. What do you say?
There's a lot of, as you were saying, it's a competitive industry with both in video production, photography, websites. The whole creative world and marketing is competitive. But I always go, man, there's plenty for everyone. There's a company like this one that I just got on in communication with, and they're a growing company. There's lots of potential, but they've never done video. They've never showed other businesses, they're B2B, and they've never showed other businesses what they do, or
and
the process. And they're growing. Yeah.
Then they don't need us.
Well,
that's what they think, right?
They're growing, but they just brought on a new guy who's it's a remote area. So
do they have a marketing director?
No.
That's usually for a bigger company. That's one of the first thing. If an owner reaches out to me, or it's like, hey, who's your marketing? At least a marketing coordinator.
Yeah,
because it's just really different. You guys have all dealt with like the owner, where it's like,
that's tough.
Dude, you got bigger fish to fry than worrying about the script that we're writing.
Yeah, exactly. So he hired.
They're the toughest people to work with because they think that they know what they need, but they really
so hard to get a hold of them. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
but there's somebody else new in the role.
A few clients that I work directly with the owner, but they're like friends. That's where it works. And the one I have is like, we made a deal. I was like, listen, you own a business. If you want us to do this, then I'm just going to approve it. When we do the social media for you, I'm not running every single thing by you because you should not be focused on that.
Yeah, sure.
You
don't have a marketing director. I'll be your de facto marketing director.
Yeah, but in some cases, I primarily do video production, but then have to give out, advice on, how do you put it out there? How many clips can we, create from this? Yeah. So it's more entailed than that. So
that was a good point, though. Like economizing on their dollar is just production's the most expensive part, and then you're like it's that funnel or however you want to think about it, like disseminating that in smaller and smaller form factors. So it's just a matter of post time, which is just it's not nearly as expensive as having a bunch of people there.
We've done that for the last few years, and it's been good as far as like justifying that ROI. I don't know if it is good for moving the needle. When I'm watching a lot of the data for companies that we help with their social media, and
just rehashing the same information essentially. Or?
I don't know if it's effective marketing though. And so,
but they feel better about it because they're getting 6 things instead of 1.
They don't care.
They don't care.
A lot of times they don't care. They just want to not get fired. and they just want their boss to see that the feed is full, and my biggest client, it's a beautiful thing when the sales team and the marketing team are in parallel. Then, I just did a presentation to like 150 sales guys from all over the world.
Holy cow.
To talk about marketing. I started off the meeting and I was like, you guys don't want to hear from me about marketing. Like, what are you doing that works in your sales process? What do you need? What would help you when you're trying to close a deal?
What tools would help you sell?
Yeah.
And then a lot of the guys gave me, it was like a giant focus group. It was awesome. And I recorded it and I was like, because then that can help shape what our marketing looks like for this company in 2025. It was to be able to be in that room and listen to the guys that are boots on the ground. And that's wonderful. When they're, a lot of times they're not running together, and that is when it just is. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, that's, marketing and sales are very different. I think a lot of people don't understand that.
And the sales guys, I did open the meeting by playing one of the documentaries we did with the company. And it was a little bit of a surprise to me that most of them had seen it and most of them use it. And then I was like, well, how do you use it? And they're like, well, if I have a client that's similar to the documentary that you told about that particular other company that uses our product, I'll send that to them before I go have a meeting with them. And I'm like, oh, that's exactly why we did that. So I think there's a shift in marketing is that I'm less interested in vanity metrics. Like, I don't care if it gets 1,000 views. I'm more interested in, did the phone ring? Was it effective? And I don't know if I'm right, but I think a lot of companies and a lot of people are chasing vanity metrics.
I like that term. That's good.
And it's like, I feel, for me personally, I'm waking up to this digital delusion that's happening where it was like, oh, let's just spend a bunch of money on Google AdWords and we'll get business.
Yeah, it's getting views, but what's it doing?
And people are waking up going, yeah, that didn't work. We spent a lot of money and we got nothing from it. So I'm shifting my mindset to be like, and the journalism side of me is like, okay, I think people are sick of vanity metrics. I think they're sick of this digital delusion that so many agencies have promised, like, oh, just spend this much on AdWords and SEO and ad spends in magazines or on online publications, and you're going to get tons of business. And people are going, we're not getting any business.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that.
And I think that it's because, number one, Gary Vee's book talks about day trading attention. That's the name of the book, where we're day trading for attention. So I'd like to think that my corporate documentaries are pretty great, and they are, but nobody's going to watch that versus, somebody on TikTok talking about aliens. Like, I'm not going to watch a corporate documentary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, let's talk to the sales guys. What do they need? Now, somebody's going to watch something if a sales guy sends it to them that already has a relationship. And how is that story going to help shape their buying decision?
Yeah.
That's where I'm thinking of, like, when we pitch, I don't want to promise vanity metrics because I don't think it means anything. When I'm doing our own sales and marketing with doing content on YouTube, I don't look at the vanity metrics.
What does viral mean to you as a manufacturing client selling business to business?
That's what I'm wondering. I don't know.
It's viral.
I don't know.
So I hear what you're saying.
Because if vanity metrics is the goal, then let's just like have a machinist in the factory and put a toilet in there and have him poop in it and film it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That
we got 10,000 views.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
nobody bought anything.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying about
until you
that.
can convert those views into dollars.
I need to work that into a
script. Can I sell you a certain number?
One.
Can I sell you a certain number of views in exchange for that ice cream cone?
I think that's the video. We took all our marketing budget and had Bob take a shit in the factory.
Yeah.
Someone's going to steal your idea now.
Instead of spending money on marketing, we just had Bob take a dump.
We got about 10 minutes left on it.
We got your attention.
Okay.
FYI.
So one of the things
What'll happen? The hard drive will not back up?
No, we got time.
Self-destruct.
Yeah. Wow, we're at 140. Jeez, this has flown by. I have a couple.
Should apologize
2 more questions
to the listeners for wasting your time.
No, I think this has
Waiting
been
for that gold nugget of information.
Yeah.
this has been really good to me, I think. But do you think there's a flip side to creating content that doesn't necessarily serve the purpose of to a sales team that helps them sell, but builds a brand of a company? So when viewers see the content that they're putting out and the stories they're telling about how their product is used in everyday life, that has some value, right? So you can't justify it to a sales team like this is really useful. I mean, you could to some extent, but just as a brand building, how do you justify that to a client?
I don't know if I justify it. I always use this quote from Seth Godin. Any of his marketing books are great. And he just says, what valuable interaction are you creating with your current customers and your potential customers? And that's how when I'm writing a script, is like, does this bring value to current, or does it get attention? Does it,
like a narrative case study or something like that?
yeah. So that's where I would approach that in the pitch and the sales process of what we do. I would say the same thing. How is this pitch going to serve them as a client? Like, what are their needs? What do they want? And how will it bring value to them? You know, I am fine with when I shoot an ice cream machine, it's not how I express myself as an artist. So quit trying to make it into, you know, it's like, you're not Michael Mann or you're not Quentin Tarantino here. So,
Yeah.
So having that filter is how I run everything, is like, okay, how is this going to bring value to the customer? And in my case, it's a client. And so when it comes to marketing, I think you want to do the same. It's like, how is this going to bring value to your customer? You know?
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's simple.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you, last time we talked, you were going through a rebrand of the company.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, number one, can you explain what Frank and Harvey, why you decided to call the company that, and then also dive into the little bit of the rebrand?
Sure.
Yeah.
Frank and Harvey is my 2 great grandfathers, and the .com was available. So that's that.
Gold.
And then I recently went through a rebranding process for the company and hired somebody. Even though we do that, I hired some outside helps because I'm too emotionally involved, and had somebody. And when I say branding, it's like, yeah, it's a logo. That's like an afterthought, but it was more about the messaging, who we are as a company, which then led into how we operate as a company. Like if you go to our website, one of the things you'll see on the homepage is our 10 rules for working, which is like a ripoff from my favorite artist, Tom Sachs. He has a thing called 10 bullets. And I was like, I want 10 rules. He has 10 bullets for his studio rules. And I was like, I want 10 rules for the way we work. And so out of that branding came those 10 rules. And it is a little crass. Like one of them is feck perfection. And I've been criticized like, well, I don't think your clients are going to like that. And then I've said, good, then they won't want to work with me.
They're not my clients.
And so that whole branding process, and it's what we do for clients when we do a branding process, is like, let's run that. Let's figure out what that filter is that you want to run everything through, so that you have sort of these pillars of who you are and what your character is as a business, so that you don't get distracted by whatever is coming your way. It's like, nope, this is who we are. We're going to stay focused. We don't do that. We do this and we don't do that, but we stay right in this lane of who we are. And I felt pretty strongly I needed to bring in outside help to do that, so that they could look at it from a, just like it was a spreadsheet, you know, which was hard. That was really hard.
I bet.
Yeah. Because I was like, you don't know me. You know? But it was good. You know, there was some tough conversations around that.
Yeah. And I like the whole look and feel. I don't know if you incorporate this into some of the other videos that you produce about your thoughts, or you working on, you were just building a cart recently.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So you have a bit of a vintage flair to all of your stuff. Is that kind of on purpose throughout all of the different platforms?
I would, yeah.
From the
Yeah, it's just
website to the
stuff I like.
videos,
Yeah.
or is it just your taste?
Yeah,
your
just stuff
style.
I like. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
where that. I would say if there's a visual sort of artist that I'm trying to copy, it would be Tom Sachs. And then there's another artist I love, Van Neistat. I love his visual aesthetic. For me personally, you won't see a lot of that in client work, but
Yeah.
Frank and Harvey, the branding, and then a lot of the content that I do for my YouTube channel is my just giving me an outlet to like make something that I like. You know? So recently for the rebrand, I bought I got some old vintage TVs, and then I did my logo in 3D, and then put them in precarious places. And it's just fun for me, you know, to work on that stuff that I used to throw away. You know, when we were first editing, it was like I had a tube TV, and I remember we were like, throw that thing away, you know. Now they're like worth money. You know?
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, those Sony, like probably what you had at Rock
like the
Valley.
CRT monitors.
Oh yeah, those are worth a lot. The Trinitrons, yeah.
Oh yeah. Is that another one of those kind of escapes that you do for a creative break?
It's twofold. It's for marketing, and then it's also I allow it to be. If I have an idea, I just chase it and have fun with it. But it certainly isn't like an escape. Sometimes it's like, oh, I gotta finish this thing, you know, because of just running a business. But I also really strongly believe that we have to practice what we preach. Is kind of the thing, is like, if we're going to tell people to do content and then we don't do content, we're kind of hypocritical.
What was that quote about the cobbler's children have no shoes?
Yeah.
That's not a saying, is it?
It is. But I'm kind of rejecting that. Like, I'm like, that's an excuse. Like, if you are selling marketing, you better be marketing. And we're not great at it, but at the same time, it's like, it gets us work. You know? Like it baffles me how much work I've gotten off of LinkedIn by posting those stupid videos. You know, it's great.
Yeah,
and not a ton of work, but a ton of leads.
Yep, sure.
From existing
touch points, at least.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm over here. That's what that does.
Yeah,
you know? So it works.
It is. Yeah, it does. Corbin, I feel like you're a very introspective person. To wrap this up, is there a saying or a phrase that has, besides the one we started the podcast off with, that has come to your mind recently, that's been a mantra or a thing that pops into your head often?
Yeah, I would say memento mori, which is this tattoo right here, which is we're all going to die. And so quit overthinking it and live today. And that's really hard to do, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Memento mori.
Memento mori.
Ryan Holiday is a modern day philosopher with the philosophy of Stoicism. That's where that comes from. His books are also incredible.
That's one I've been wanting to dive in.
Classical.
Greek.
Yeah.
Well, Corbin, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Always great to talk to you. I can't believe it's been almost 2 hours. So we could talk longer. Maybe.
All right, let's go ahead and delete this podcast, Kiko, and we'll.
Don't delete
it. He was actually scared. You could hear it in his voice on that one.
You guys are making me nervous.
It's supposed to completely disown us.
All right, thank you, Corbin. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will catch you on the next one. Where can people find you?
On the internet.
At
just look up Corbin Tyson.
Corbin
or
Tyson.
frankandharvey.com. Yeah.
Perfect. Beautiful. All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.